We know that DICE is currently working on quite a few different things coming very soon to Battlefield 1. We've got the big Russian DLC, In the Name of the Tsar, we've got the new progression system, and the launch of a competitive module to be revealed at Gamescom in August. That's a lot of things to be working on, big projects. And besides those, there are of course smaller projects, like the ongoing updates to rental servers, and of course normal gameplay balancing to smooth out issues. But on top of all of that, DICE want our suggestions on what needs more focus in Battlefield 1, what can help make this game even better. In a post on Reddit last night, producer over at DICE LA, Yoye Dalund, he opened up to the community and he asked directly what DICE as a studio should be putting their efforts into when it comes to Battlefield 1. It's been a while since we did this, but here we go again. I'd like to ask you, the community, what you think we should prioritise our working efforts on. What features would you like to see added, improved, removed, or changed? We do have our own internal list of priorities, but I'm sure we're missing some things. Help us make the game even better. I know there are a lot of you out there with a passion for competitive gaming. There is no reason to post anything about that aspect of Battlefield here or now. A time and place for that will come very soon. Now, as you might expect, this kind of open-ended question has given way to one of the most popular threads on the Battlefield 1 live Reddit page for quite some time. Everyone, I'm sure, wants to tell the developers what they think should be added or improved in the game, and this was their chance, basically. I'd like to take some of these suggestions, the most popular ones from the community, and highlight them in this video, because having scanned through the thread, there are some good, rational responses that I think DICE can work with. Suggestions that aren't unreasonable, things that can be implemented or can be changed with the current state of the game right now. The first one that popped up quite a lot actually is something called AD/AD spam. For those who don't know what that is, it applies mostly to the PC version of the game, although I think there could be some tweaks to the console version that would mirror what could happen on PC. It's the action of a soldier in-game stepping from side to side, with the person on their keyboard tapping AD backwards and forwards really fast. The player model in the game moves unnaturally fast, meaning aiming at them can be very difficult. There is also very little penalty when it comes to AD/AD spamming in Battlefield 1. You can continue to fire your weapon whilst hitting AD/AD, wiggling from side to side, and your bullets will still go more or less where you want them to go. This is a partial issue that Battlefield 4 suffered from, and DICE LA did implement a fix to that, which slightly reduced the speed at which a soldier could change direction. And they changed some of the soldier animations as well, so the player model wouldn't bunch up and make a target that's too small to hit. That's more commonly known as flinching. Essentially, Battlefield 1 needs this fix as well. This only really applies to PC due to the on-off state of pushing keys on a keyboard. They can't be pressed and depressed in stages, allowing for slower or faster movements. That's something you can do with an analog stick on a controller. That can be pushed in a direction for a certain amount and then held in place to make the soldier move at that speed. You could push it further and make them move faster, or you could let go and the soldier would stop. PC doesn't have that. This is an important point because I feel AD/AD spam could become a bigger issue in Battlefield 1 surrounding competitive. Now, I know Yoye said that any concerns around competitive gaming in Battlefield at the moment shouldn't be mentioned, but I feel if AD/AD spam isn't fixed on PC, it will have a huge impact on the competitive gameplay that's coming up very soon. Imagine if people were strafing left to right stupidly fast and exploiting the game at the expense of the other team. I can tell you now, it's not very much fun when you're on the receiving end of it. The second point that I'd like to highlight, and this applies directly to consoles, it's the aim assist function. Even I know how much aim assist influences the gameplay on console, and I've only played a few rounds on Xbox One. The way that aiming in Battlefield 1 when you aim down sights just snaps to the torso or the head of enemy players, it's extreme. It's very severe, and it's something that a lot of the console community have been complaining about for a long time now. The same situation applies as with the ADAD spam on PC. If Battlefield 1's competitive module launches with the current implementation of aim assist, then the experience is not going to be very much based on skill, it's not really going to be very fun, and in many cases it's kind of unfair. I understand why aim assist exists for console games, but Battlefield 1 really needs to dial it down a bit. The influence on aiming is just incredible at the moment. It needs to be toned down to a more acceptable level. Why it was ever left to be so intrusive in the first place is beyond me, especially when the community has been so vocal about it since almost, well, the launch of the game. Now, moving on to my third point here, something else that was heavily requested in the Reddit thread was the spawn system. How the game still suffers from players just popping up out of nowhere on the bodies of dead players. This issue is caused when a player is allowed to spawn, but the person they're trying to spawn on dies the moment they start the swooping in animation. The player then pops up like magic, has some spawn protection, and then likely kills the enemy who's just killed the squad mate who is now dead on the floor. In my opinion, I like the new swooping animation, but it has introduced another issue into Battlefield 1 that was essentially fixed in Battlefield 4. In that game, we had issues of elongated black screens after clicking the deploy button on the spawn screen. Sometimes that would lead to players just popping up out of nowhere once the black screen had disappeared and catching people by surprise, or sometimes the black screen would be covering an enemy that was looking directly at you. You'd lose your spawn protection after being there for a second or so, and you'd be killed and you couldn't even see the map. Once again, however, DICE LA worked on this and they managed to reduce the duration of that black screen, which meant the spawn experience was improved not only for the players spawning in, but the players on the map as well. You wouldn't just have these random occurrences of players popping up out of nowhere. Despite that greater situational awareness that you now have when you're spawning into Battlefield 1, because the animation essentially shows you where you're going to start from, the whole animation is invisible to people on the map, and the player only shows up when the animation finishes. That's why they just pop up out of nowhere. Something needs to be done to address this, because despite it looking cool, it's not really a great implementation due to that delay in newly deployed players actually appearing on the map. Now, according to DICE, they are already working on the spawning issue, and they hope to have something new very soon for players to try out. I think we need to wait and see what they come up with here. Point number 4 from the Reddit thread, and something that was echoed in the comments of my last video on the July patch as well: operations in the server browser. I think we've been saying this pretty much since January or February time. However, DICE has stated their position on operations. They want it to be based upon matchmaking as opposed to players choosing their own server. They want players to experience the whole operation from start to finish. Now, while I think that is a totally valid idea, I and a lot of other players feel it's actually hurting the game mode more than it's helping it at the moment. Wanting people to experience the full operation has led to the matchmaker still, after 10 months of the game being out, dumping players into empty servers. These servers are at the start of an operation, but most people are in other operations that are still going on. These servers then don't fill up very quickly, so people just quit out and go and play something else. I think this has gone on for long enough now, and people are starting to simply avoid the game mode because they know they're just going to end up in an empty server because of the matchmaker. And even though DICE wanted people to experience the full operation, they kind of went against that recently, and they added a Join Any Operation button, which matchmakes you into an in-progress operation. Seems like DICE is trying to find an answer, but they don't have something solid yet. Could the answer be simply right in front of them and putting the operations in the server browser? I think it could be a good thing. more data for players because we can choose which of the servers we want to join, regardless if the operation has started or not, and we can be confident that we won't end up in an empty server because you can see the number of players that are already playing on that server. If DICE is planning something, then I do hope it satisfies the community. If they haven't got something in the works, well, this topic isn't going away. The community are extremely vocal about this one. And lastly, point number 5, something that lots of people mentioned, but I hadn't really thought about it actually, lighting differences between inside and outside buildings. How many times have you gone up to a window in Battlefield 1 and not been able to see out of it because the bloom effect on the lighting is just too bright for you to see anything? This is a gameplay issue. If I can't see out of the window, but somebody can see through it inside and look at me, that's going to result in my death due to a lighting bug. And again, that's not great when you consider competitive gaming. And whilst we're at it with the lighting, maybe we could have an option to disable weather conditions or set it to default sunny, something like that. That would be a nice addition to Battlefield 1. Removing any random elements should be a priority when it comes to competitive play. Now, from what I've gathered in this list of suggested improvements, it's that people want the whole gameplay experience to basically be tightened up and made slightly more challenging. Removing the stupidly fast soldier movement, toning down the aim assist on console, a solid spawn system so that you can't cheaply kill people anymore, and removing graphical bugs. All of these areas need a little bit of improvement in Battlefield 1, and essentially, when it launched, it was a new stage for the franchise. Lots and lots and lots of changes were made to Battlefield 1 than what we saw in Battlefield 4. The two games are vastly different. I think DICE got a little bit lost in all of those changes. They ended up focusing on the wrong areas. They've now got a chance to improve that, and let's hope they make good on it. But thanks very much for watching the video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. If you want to get involved directly on Reddit and give your feedback to the developers, you can find the thread linked down in the description. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.